Welcome to Senior Insights. My name is Cynthia, and I could not wait. To record this video. I didn't get home today from my gallivanting until 3:30, and the first thing I did was I put the kettle on for some tea. So I'm having my tea with you because I had to get to tell you what happened today. So the first thing that happened this morning is I woke up. Most days start like that, don't they? And it became interesting after that. So what I do when I'm leaving the house is I have to check every nook and cranny and make sure that there is no speck of food, no crumb, no nothing, so that the dog doesn't get into it. Like I showed you those couple of videos that I did where she got into the trash. So I lock the trash, I turn the trash backwards, there's a bag of dog food that's empty and open. I put the broom on top of that because she's afraid of the broom. If it moves, she'll run. She's afraid of everything. She's huge. She's a little wuss. So I put my jacket on, I make sure all my stuff is right in the corner there where I take it where I put it when I'm leaving the house. And I give her the okay. I say, okay, you can have your treat now. I usually don't allow her to have it until I'm out the door, but I didn't tell you that I bribe her when I leave with the treat. And the treat is usually it's a marrow bone that has either moist dog food that has been frozen or peanut butter that has been frozen. So I go into the refrigerator, I get it for her, and I bring it to this special little pad that she has. And she waits to touch it until I am going out the door and I say okay, and then she'll touch it. So that was fine. That went very smoothly. I was confident that I didn't have anything around that she could get into, so that was a good thing. She has separation anxiety and she doesn't like me to be gone for too long. And I've probably only been letting her stay alone for about a year, and she's 6 years old, so it's stress producing for her and for me. But anyway, so I put the trash in the back of the car because I had 2 bags of trash and one of them included kitty litter. And so I put that in the back of the car and I got up the top of the driveway and I took a left. Well, that's not heading to the trash can, the dumpster. That's heading out the road. So I kept going because I couldn't be late for my doctor's appointment. So it takes me like 40 minutes to get to the doctor's office. So I was there a little bit early, but they're really good. You check in and you don't wait long at all. As a matter of fact, they took me in 15 minutes later than 15 minutes earlier than my appointment was. So I was excited about that because I had an engagement afterwards. So the first thing we do is go by the scale. I always refuse to let them weigh me. I weigh myself the morning of, and I tell them what the weight is. And she said, no, we can't do that today. We need your height and weight. This is an annual wellness exam. I said, oh, okay. And she said, you'll have to take your shoes off. I said, oh, okay. So I take my shoes off, and I let her weigh and measure me, and I was 2 pounds heavier there than I was when I weighed myself. So that really annoyed me. But I had clothes on. Well, I had clothes on when I weighed myself at home, but I hadn't eaten. So anyway, and then I go and sit in the doctor's office. And now I don't know if any of you have had the annual wellness test, but the wellness test, they want to make sure that you're well, that you're not a fall risk, that you're not depressed, that you're not suicidal, that you're not being abused, or all of those things. So they need to know all those important questions. But I had already done them on the internet, so she didn't have to ask me too many things. But for the annual Medicare wellness test, you have to do a cognitive test. Well, I flunked the cognitive test. I know you're not surprised. What happens, as I said to her, I said, I am not going to do well. It's all it is 3 words. She said, I'm going to give you 3 words. And then they made me draw a clock, and I had to put, where the numbers went and all that. And then she said, okay, mark it at 2 o'clock. I actually had to think where the shorthand went and the longhand went. I'm telling you, there is serious dementia threat coming in. I mean, I did it, and I did it right. But I had to think about it. It's really scary. So then she said, what's the 3 words? And I said, I don't remember them. And she says, one of them? I said, well, one of them is village, one of them is child, and one of them is wheat or something like that. And she said, well, you got 1 right. So I got 1 out of 3 right. The minute she leaves the room, I was reciting them. I knew exactly what they were. It was I can't remember. I can't remember what the words were. And I could have sworn that I had the words. Anyway, so we did that, and I was kind of chuckling to myself, but I'm saying, geez, Cynthia, there is some serious stuff going on in your head, or not going on in your head. So then the doctor comes in. He's actually a PA, and he's this handsome kid. He's like 40 years old, and I love him. I've been going to him for a few years now, and he's saying, well, so how are you doing? I said, I'm doing good. How about you? And so we go through all my previous tests and x-rays and CAT scans and all that stuff, medication. And I did con him into doing an x-ray of my lower back because my lower back has been killing me. Now, I already know what the results will be, but I wanted to be confirmed so that I could tell everybody that I told you I knew what it was going to be. So anyway, so he wrote an order for that. But I said, you will never know, guess what I'm doing. He said, what? I said, I started a YouTube channel. I'm sorry. I said, I started a YouTube channel. He said, you did? I said, yeah. He said, what's it about? And I said, well, the name of it, I said, oh, I haven't told anyone that I know that I've done this, so I can't believe that I just told you. But I'll tell you anyway. It's called Senior Insights, and you probably should look at it. He said, oh, I'm going to. I said, well, watch the one that I posted today, because that one's okay. I said, don't watch those early ones, please. But anyway, so he's laughing and he's chuckling. And I said, if you have any senior people that are lonely or they just don't know what to do with themselves, I said, tell them to do a YouTube channel. And he said, it's the community, isn't it? And I said, yep. And he said to me, well, don't you go to other groups and stuff? Because, they're always worried that you're antisocial or you're isolating yourself and stuff. I said, yes, I do. I go to other groups, but I'm not like those other people. And he said, what do you mean? I said, I'm different. I'm just different. I've been different my whole life, and people don't understand me. The people on YouTube, I said, get it. They understand me. They're more, they don't think I'm odd or whatever. Well, I don't really know what you think, but so anyway, I had a chuckle over that. So I get dismissed from the doctor's office. Then I go to the reception area where you have to get your written report. You have to schedule your next appointment. And the woman was very nice. I said, I love your earrings. They're really nice. And she was probably getting ready to retire maybe in 5 years. And we were talking about, it just happens. So it was a coincidence. I was saying that I like middle of the morning appointments because I don't have to get up too early, but it doesn't waste my whole day. Well, that was a lie because today was an a mid-morning appointment and wasted my whole day. So she said, well, I'm the exact opposite. She said, when I'm home on my day off, she said, I want my cup of coffee, and she said, I want to put my feet up and watch YouTube. I said, you're kidding. And she said, no. She said, I love YouTube. And I said, I'm going to tell you something. You have to watch my channel. And I whispered it so no one else could hear. You have a channel? I said, yeah, I have a channel. I said, it's called Senior Insight. She said, wait a minute, I got to get a piece of paper and write this down. So she writes it down. And I'm like so excited. I said, maybe this is how I get subscribers. I just go to have these casual conversations with people, and then they confess as they watch YouTube, and then I ask them to go. And she said, I said, what kind of YouTube things do you watch? And she said, I do mostly craft shows. I said, well, you won't find any crafts there, but we need you. So I said, come over. So if you see Sharon, she's the receptionist at the doctor's office, and Zachary is the PA. I have the feeling he's going to let me down, but we'll see. So anyway, I'm like so excited. And then I have to go to this appointment that I had with my friend Ann. Now I'm going to tell you something. I sort of fibbed to you, or I misled you, or I told you I didn't tell anyone. Well, how could I not tell my friend who told me that she could definitely see me doing a YouTube video? So she has known all along, and she has watched every single one, and she is a member of the community, and she comments, and her name is Ann Redmond. So you will see her, and you will know that she knows the real me. And she's had a real tough time with this channel because she can't say what she'd really like to say. She knows me very, very well, and we've known each other for a long time. She's younger than me, but what can I say? So anyway, I'm meeting Ann because the rest of the day is all her fault. It's all her fault. We were going to go to an RV show, and it's pouring rain. So I'm supposed to meet her there. So I meet her in the store, and she has an umbrella and she has a walking stick. Thank God she had a walking stick, and I had an umbrella in my car. So get this, I go into my car, into the back of my car, and the umbrella's not there, in the hatch. So I leave the hatch, and then I go in the back seat and I find the umbrella. So I take the umbrella, and then we go and we start looking at trailers. So it starts torrential rain, and it was cold because we were wet. It was like we went into a pool, even though we had umbrellas. She had one, I had one. Hers was a lot bigger than mine though, so she probably didn't get as wet as me. But so we're going into these trailers, and do you know some of those cost $177? That was the highest one we saw, because we gave. You can see I'm not poor, I'm not destitute, but I could never afford to go into debt over something like that. But anyway, they were beautiful, and I did take some footage. I was going to video the whole thing, but I said, forget this, I'm not doing it. I had a hard enough time. The other thing that I discovered was that I had a hard time getting up into the trailer, and I had a hard time getting down. They don't have railings on the thing, and the stairs are narrow, and they're wobbly, and you're wobbly, so, I was very disappointed that I couldn't just bring up the stairs. So that was another thing. I flunked the cognitive test. I couldn't go up and down the stairs. I was a wuss with the rain. And then I act like a jerk and tell the doctor that I'm doing a YouTube channel. So anyway, I said, Ann, I can't do any more of this. I said, I can't get up and down. I'm freezing. We need to get out of here and we need to go to lunch. Now, I know I've said I'm never going to lunch again. But I was desperate. So we went to this place called Dysart's. And Dysart's is really, it's a truck stop. So they have fabulous food. Most of the local people go there. And of course, it's a truck stop, so all the truckers go there. And the food is great. So I had a tuna melt. I didn't take a picture of it, though. And it was delicious. It was really good. And she had a Mr. Jaws sandwich. Well, what the heck is a Mr. Jaws sandwich? It's a fish sandwich, named after Jaws. Anyway, so our meals were good. We had a good time. We were laughing. We were laughing so hard because we were talking about other things that I have shared with her that she's insisting that I should share on YouTube. And I don't know if I'm ready for it yet, but I did tell her that I would consider it. So I leave the parking lot, and I see this other driveway. So I said, I'll go that way. So I go that way, and I get out of the parking lot. And when I wake up from La La Land, I discover that I don't even know the road that I'm on. I'm telling you, this is getting serious, very serious. The road that the restaurant was on is a very popular road. I go up and down it all the time. That's where you go when you go to the city. So I had to figure out how to get back to the doctor's because I had to have that x-ray that I talked him into. So I figured that out, but it probably cost me 15 minutes out of my day. So then I go to the place to have the x-ray, and the x-ray wait was about a half an hour, so the clock is ticking. I lost 15 minutes when I was lost, and now I'm losing a half hour. How long is the x-ray going to take? But they took me in pretty well. And the x-ray only took less than a minute, I think. But she had me on the table, and I was laying on my left side, and she adjusted the table like some panel underneath. My finger was in it. And I go, ah! And she screamed too because she didn't warn me to keep my fingers out of the way, So my finger was squished. I said, we almost cut off the tip of my finger. She said, I know, I'm so sorry. I said, don't worry, honey, it's okay. Just like a lady, an old lady. I said, it's okay, honey, it's okay. Just make sure you tell people the next time that you do this. So, thankfully, my finger didn't fall off. I got out of there, I got in my car, I got on the right road, and I headed home. Then I go to the pharmacy to pick up medication. Well, I had received an email that said I had 3 things to pick up. And this morning, I received another text that my one prescription was ready, and the doctor renewed a prescription, so he called one in while I was there. So I figured, well, this is plenty enough time for them to figure it out. So I go up to the window. Meanwhile, the guy in front of me was there for 20 minutes, and it was really annoying. I think some people try and do long-term business there. It's not, it's a drive-through. You just drive through, say, hi, this is my name, and this is what I need. Anyway, so she looks me up. I said, I'm here to pick up my meds. And she said, what makes you think you have meds here? So I said, do you want to know what makes me think that I have meds here? She said, well, I can fill the inhaler, she said, and you can come back in an hour. I said, no, I am not coming back in an hour. I am picking up the 3 meds that you notified me that I had. And I said, are you looking at the right person? What's your date of birth? What's your name? What's your address? Oh, I was looking at the wrong person. Well, guess what? That one person had one of the meds that I had on my list. So she said, well, can you come back in an hour, when she was going to fill the inhaler? I said, no, I can't. It takes me an hour. It's a whole day trip. I can't do it. That's why I'm here. I want it now. So she gave me the meds. So I got the meds, and I come home. And I come halfway down the driveway, and I remember that I have trash in my car. So I had this little conversation with myself. Oh, forget about it. Just go down and you can do it tomorrow. Well, I said, no, you can't, because I had a big hunk of meat that I had taken out of the refrigerator. Ham from, I don't know when it was, but it was starting to have an odor to it. You can imagine if I left it in my car overnight, unrefrigerated. So I had to go back out of the driveway, then I went to the dumpster and I got rid of the trash. And then I closed the door and I came home. And Quinny was so happy to see me. She was just delighted to see me. She was running around, racing around, and I just happened to look, something caught my eye, and I said, why is that drawer open? Well, she didn't answer me, of course, but she left the scene of the crime. It was a drawer. Now, mind you, she has never opened a drawer before. She's opened doors, but she's never opened a drawer before. And this drawer happens to be where I keep her treats. Well, did she have fun? I have a clip of what I came into. She ate an entire bag of real bacon, pizza flavored. She liked the pizza flavored. I'm trying to see how many ounces it was. It had real bacon in it. I give her 2 a day. 40 ounces, 2 pounds. It was probably like 3/4 full. It wasn't, it was open. It was an open bag. So she had that. Let's say she had a pound of pizza flavored bacon strips. Then she had a 25-ounce bag, which is 1 pound, 9 ounces of flavor sticks. Now, this was also an open bag, and there was quite a bit in it, but let's say 50%. So she had a little, almost 3/4 of a pound, something like that. So she had this. Now, things that I also keep in that drawer. So that was the only food that she had. She actually did not touch this, and it had been opened. So I actually have this left. But as I'm looking at it, never mind, I'm not going to tell you when it expired. Never mind. That would be, I was banned from YouTube. So in this drawer, I keep my food coloring. I have this large bottle of red food coloring. And I keep it in this plastic bag because I have had red food coloring all over the place. However, it was on its side on that famous rug and not a drop spilled. So she is darn lucky, because that would have sent me right over the edge. And then this is a whole other bag of food coloring. So if she had gotten into that, oh my gosh, can't you imagine the mess? Unbelievable. Anyway, I've talked on and on and on, and I'm sure this is way too long for you. I'm sorry if it's too boring. I didn't even tell you that I was distraught that my hair was a mess because of the rain. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe and comment, and I will see you in the next video. And I hope you have a better day than I did.